Welcome to my ultimate Beast Tyrant guide. The Beast Tyrant is one of the funnest classes. I've got another video on, the funnest classes in Gloomhaven. The Beast Tyrant's on that list. Check out that link down in the description after you watch this video. But in this guide, we're going to talk about everything you need to know and how to play the Beast Tyrant and play him well. So first, we're going to talk about move. The Beast Tyrant needs to play a lot of bottom actions that are not moves. So we're going to talk about how to get around that and what you need to do. We're also going to talk about summons and how summons work and can you use summons? Should you use summons? We'll go through all that. I'm going to go through every single card. We're going to go through level picks and we're going to talk about, how you utilize the hit point pool. What strategy should you use as the Beast Tyrant? I see a lot of people online talking about how they never move as a Beast Tyrant. I don't think that's really the right strategy, but I'll go through exactly how that works. And also, I show card images all throughout my videos. You're going to see some questionable enhancements on some of these cards, and we'll talk about why later. Okay, let's get started. Spirit Swap. Top is a semi-useful ability. The bear moves 3 on its own, and so I think that you don't very often want to use one of your top actions to move. I think you're either going to want to throw it away for, concentrated rage, which we'll talk about later, or you actually want to be attacking for the most part. And just so you know, the commands, even though the bear operates under summon AI, the command, anytime you command the bear, you get to tell the bear exactly where to go. The initiative on this card, 22, fairly decent for the class. And then the bottom, you can swap 2 enemies. This can be decently useful. However, it's hard to find a spot for it when you're playing the Beast Tyrant optimally because you're trying to attack a lot from the bottom using the bottom actions of your cards. And then the other times you're trying to do these really big moves. We'll talk more about how that works later, but overall the card's decent, but usually ends up staying in the sideboard. Borrowed Essence. Top is okay. It's pretty tough for us to generate elements. I mean, we can generate earth later on, but we can't generate air consistently. However, this card is easy to bring with us, and here's why. If you're playing an optimal build, which I think you need to play Concentrated Rage and mostly use the bear to attack, you have to throw away or you have to, not use your top action. And so it's okay to have some cards that have a not great top action like this one and have a very good situational bottom. Especially if your allies have summons, you can move damage around however you want on all summoned allies, including your bear and yourself. This can be really good because your bear, he's a bit of a hothead. He's mostly going to be in there getting himself into trouble, and it's nice to heal, but it's also nice sometimes to use your own health pool to help the bear stay alive. And so lots of times you're going to be throwing this away or not using the top action so that you can use Concentrated Rage and buff up your bottoms. And then you'll be able to use this powerful bottom, this powerful situational bottom once in a while when it really makes sense. Disorienting Roar. The top is okay. Usually your bear's in melee range already, and so immobilizing, you don't get the full effect. I mean, the number one thing you want to do when you immobilize is to immobilize a monster before it goes, attack it, move out of range, or just immobilize and move out of range so that you effectively pseudo-stun melee monsters so that, they can't attack anyone, nobody's in range. Anyways, these kind of cards, these commands on the top that are situational are fine, like I just explained in Borrowed Essence, because you can just forego the top action when you're using Concentrated Rage. And then the initiative on this is pretty good, so it's fairly useful because it's got decent initiative. And then the bottom is situationally going to be amazing in some scenarios. And I don't want to spoil things, but sometimes you want to swap two figures and it is going to be insanely helpful around NPCs or around objectives, stuff like that. Disappearing Wounds. Top is a pretty powerful heal for level 1, and if you're out there using your hit point pool to help protect your bear, which I think you should some of the time, then this is actually going to be useful. Okay, initiative at 23, pretty decent, still low enough. And then the bottom is absolutely essential if you're playing Concentrated Rage. You should be taking this card for the bottom 1,000% of the time. It's our only non-loss bottom command attack. Well, that's a mouthful. At level 1. And so we have to take it. We have to. Relentless Ally. The old Tattered Wolf is not too bad. He's pretty quick. He's got okay attack. He can take one hit at early scenario levels. He quickly loses steam. But the great thing is he'll, usually be by the bear. And so when he's by the bear comes out first. And so just remember, if there's a distance tie, the monster is going to focus on the bear first because the bear technically has lower initiative. So yeah, just remember that when you've got the wolf out. I don't play it for the wolf very often. I like to play this for the bottom. I play a tyrant that is usually keeping up for the most part, unless, scenario objectives or something else dictate otherwise. So this move 5 is great because you want to be playing as many bottom commands as possible. You want to be commanding your bear to attack and using Concentrated Rage. And so this move 5 is really nice to just, jump up to where you need to be every few turns. You need to have these big moves, a couple big moves so that you can spend most of your time commanding. And yeah, once in a while, just do like a huge leap up to where you need to be so that you can stay in the fray and do some other cool stuff, which we'll talk about coming up. And then yeah, this card, it has our latest initiative. So when you want to go late at level 1, this is the card you need to play. Concentrated Rage. And this picture you're looking at is one of the questionable enhancements I was talking about. This class was played by someone in my group back in 2017. Didn't have a great grasp on how to play. I would recommend never enhancing this top. I think this top gets used sometimes, but in a bear build where we're using the bottom of Concentrated Rage, this top never gets used, and so I would not recommend enhancing the top, even though it's a pretty decent top for control. I mean, disarming at that range is pretty good. So the initiative 51 doesn't really matter. The bottom of this card is what we build around. And so when you're choosing whether Concentrated Rage is worth it, you're going to take the number of attacks you have on a bottom action, and then you're going to times that by 2, and you're going to add +3 for the bear's own attack. So let me explain. So 2 bottom attacks, we go 2 times 3 plus the bear's own attack on his turn. He gets +3 from Concentrated Rage. And so if we've got 2 attacks on the bottom of a card, it's worth +9 total damage. And so compare that to your actions. If it's 1 attack on a bottom, it's worth +6. So as you can see, foregoing your top action, even for 1 bottom command, is almost always going to be worth it, and it's 100% worth it pretty much when you're using 2 bottom attacks. So very, very good. That's how you kind of decide when you're going to play your bottom attacks, and that's how you compare to your top attack effectiveness instead of actually foregoing that top action. So Concentrated Rage, it's the card we're going to build around. I think that it's the number 1 way to play the Tyrant. I like to stay somewhat close to and use a little bit of control, but I think we should be playing Concentrated Rage most of the time, unless you've played it a lot and you're into theory crafting. You can make a summon build work. You can make a Tyrant build work where you're focused a lot more on control and not on commanding the bear as much. You definitely can, but if you're just starting out with the Tyrant and you want to play it so that it's the most effective, using the bottom of Concentrated Rage is going to do that for you. And make sure that you take a reasonable amount of bottom command attacks, because there's nothing worse than having two bottom command attacks in your hand. One of them comes up and you on a short rest and you're like, oh, no, I don't want that. Then the second one comes up and now all of a sudden you've thrown away some of your bottom command attacks. And so make sure you have more than you need so that you don't have to worry as much when you short rest. Also, if you could, if this video is helping you, hit that like button. It really helps me out a lot. And subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that when I publish content, you're notified. And also, I work with Noble Knight Games. They specialize in carrying all kinds of out-of-print games, old stuff, etc. They have the largest selection of games in the world. I mean, it's really crazy. And they've also got, I mean, they've got tabletop role-playing games. They've got Dungeons and Dragons and Rifts and GURPS, and they've got Magic. They've got miniatures. They've got basically anything you're looking for. If you click on the link down in the description, that's an affiliate link for me. I make a small commission on anything you buy, and anything you can do to support the channel is greatly appreciated. Focused aggression. Top is kind of just a standard power level attack, and this is what I was talking about when you're comparing whether you should do this action when you have concentrated rage out, or whether you should forego the action and play a bottom command attack. A bottom command attack is going to be worth significantly more damage. It's going to add 6 damage on top of the attacks, right? On top of the actual damage, versus this top attack, which is going to do 3. So, I mean, substantially better. And then the bottom of this, very good for burst damage at level 1. I mean, if you have concentrated rage out, the bear's going to attack for 5, 2 plus 3. Then you're going to attack for 5 plus 3, which is 8, and then pull modifiers. You're looking at, 13 plus damage at level 1. That's going to wreck people. Forceful Swipe. Top is not bad. You can use it to output some pretty decent damage, but 2 attack runs out of steam fairly quickly. Initiative, not super great either. The bottom, it can be useful to reposition your bear. Also, sometimes you're going to be able to push monsters into traps. So, if I've run out of bottom command attacks, then sometimes I'll use this to, reposition people on the battlefield, etc. So utility-wise, bottom is okay. Most of the time I'm not using the top. I'm, foregoing the top action for concentrated rage, damage buff. Howling Bolts. Top has got some utility. Our attack modifier deck gets pretty good at later levels, so this can turn into some okay damage. That being said, I don't use it very often. And then the bottom move 5. I don't think you need move 5 with the bear really that often. I'd rather have a move 3 push 2. So overall, not using this card very often. I think move 5 for the bear is not really necessary. If it was move 5 for the tyrant, I mean, I would be loving it. But yeah, the bear doesn't really need it. Maul. A pretty good card. The bear, it's in the fray a lot. So this top attack 4 is essentially a non-conditional attack 4, which is pretty good at level 1. However, let's compare the total damage of playing this card instead of foregoing the top action and playing a bottom command attack. So a bottom command attack, if you have concentrated rage out, is 2 plus 3 for the bear's turn for 5 on the bear's turn. And then your bottom command, if it's 2 attack, it's 2 plus 3 for 5 attack again. 10 total attack. Now compare this, if we play this top and the bear does his thing and moves and attacks 2, that's 2 plus 4 is 6. So you can see how even an attack 4 top is not as good as playing a bottom command. That being said, early on, we don't have enough bottom command attacks to attack every turn or even close. So you will need to play this card for the top attack sometimes when you're moving. The initiative at 14 is also very good. And then the bottom, move 3, shield 1, affect adjacent allies, one adjacent ally, is decent, but move 3 is not really quite enough, but you will use this sometimes when you're trying to protect your bear. Soaring Ally, the kamikaze bird. This thing has too much move, it has no hit points, it's gonna fly out like a missile and blow up on somebody. I mean, it has a very limited chance of living. because it's flying, because it's so fast. It's awful. It's one of the worst summons. The initiative is decently late. 77 is usually going to make sure you go last, which is okay. The bottom, this is the first edition card, and I miss it. Move 3 jump, and then this enhancement on this card actually makes sense. There's some more that are going to make very little sense. We'll talk about those as they come up. This enhancement actually made sense back in the day. I missed the jump so much. Now it's a loot one though, which is actually pretty good because it's a loot one command. So the bear is actually going to be doing the looting. And when the bear is doing the looting, it's right in the fray, meleeing, killing monsters, stuff like that. So it's actually a pretty good loot and helps the Beast Tyrant, rack up some coin. Patch Fur. In this card you're seeing, no, there is no pip for enhancing this. It just got randomly enhanced. I considered taking the sticker off, but I thought, whatever, it's going to be funny. I have taken the sticker off now, though. It just shows, I tested this class, a decent amount because it had been a while since I played it, and I didn't realize until a little ways through that it didn't have an enhancement pip. I just randomly decided to check. I don't know. It's like I remembered something. And yeah, sure enough, you can't enhance this. The top is okay. It affects all summoned allies. So it is actually going to affect, other summoned allies, which can be pretty handy in the right party comps. 20 initiative is also pretty good. And then the heal 4 command on the bear, he's reckless. He gets himself into hot water a lot. You're going to need this heal 4, especially at level 1. It's actually pretty darn good. Yeah, you're going to need to use it. Venomous Ally. The adder is not too bad. It's okay early on. It runs out of steam just like the wolf. I think the wolf I like a little bit better though, right? It's got a little bit more move. It's got, +1 attack. Although poisoning sometimes does help when your bear is attacking the same thing. And because the bear is summoned first, right, it takes the aggro if they're equidistant from a monster and the monster, needs to find a focus. Fairly late initiative. And then the bottom attack. Normally I really like bottom attacks, but I don't think you've got room for this bottom attack. Almost never. When you're not bottom command attacking with the bear, you want to be healing the bear or you want to be moving. Pretty much those things. You don't really have a spot for a bottom attack, so I'm not taking this card with me very often. At level 2, we have Energizing Strike and we have Earthen Spikes. Energizing Strike is just a solid top command. The strengthen is nice. The initiative is getting a little slow at 29, but still okay. The bottom is actually really useful. Everybody starts a scenario with poison or wound. Really, really handy that way to get rid of those conditions. It has no range requirements. It just automatically affects every ally. It helps other people's summons stay topped up. Pretty solid. And then Earthen Spikes, another questionable enhancement here on the top. I would recommend you do not enhance that. The top is okay, but I don't think we're using it very often, unless you're using an alternate build. In the build I'm talking about for newer players and the most effective build, you're throwing away your top actions or foregoing them. I keep saying throwing away. You're not throwing them away. You're foregoing your top action to buff your bottom command attacks and buff up the bear. I don't think there's really a spot for this card, although the initiative is almost worth taking because it's, when you're foregoing top actions, sometimes the initiative, you need more than even the top action. So I wouldn't fault anyone for taking this card, literally to get initiative 11. And then the bottom, situationally, this can be one of those cards that can help you a lot. I didn't find a lot of use for it, and I would recommend you take Energizing Strike overall, even though the initiative isn't as good, just because the card overall is going to be probably more useful for you. At level 3, we have Unstoppable Beast and we have Vicious Ally. Unstoppable Beast top is just a straight upgrade to Forceful Swipe, and if you can produce Earth, it's actually pretty powerful. 12 damage for hitting 3 monsters is pretty good, but you're going to have to, position the bear, and sometimes you're not going to be in position, so it's a little bit harder, and it's not as good on somebody like, if the Brute has this card. The Brute has similar cards to this. If the Brute had this card, it would be better for the Brute. Initiative at 32, not that great. Move 5 is actually really good for us, though. We can really use this move. And then we've got Vicious Ally. The Gator is actually not too bad. Immobilizing, and it's, got 5 hit points, and it can attack at, 3, which is not too bad, and the Bear's out to help protect it. So it's better than it looks. It's got nice late initiative, but it can never be played for the summon pretty much, because the bottom is so good for Concentrated Rage. So the Bear attacks 2+3 on its turn for 5, then it attacks on your turn 2+3, 2+3. That's 15 damage without attack modifier cards at level 3. You are going to be rolling through monsters using this combo. I mean, you have to take Vicious Ally, even though I love the move, even though I love Unstoppable Beast, even though I actually like the top of this. You're taking Vicious Ally. I mean, if you're playing a standard build, right? I'm not trying to get too pushy here. Not telling you what to do. But it's so powerful. In an optimal build, I think you're playing this card all the time for the bottom, and you're using like a minor stand to get it back, and you're doing anything you can to play it as much as possible. At level 4, we have Punch Through and we have Ancient Ward. Punch Through top is pretty good, and I think you're going to hear a lot of people say, oh, the Beast Tyrant struggles with shielded monsters, and that's true, so this card can be useful. It's got not great initiative. The bottom is pretty good utility, though, because you get to move and you get to add attack. I mean, that's always going to be useful. And then we've got Ancient Word. The top of Ancient Word is so good. I know that we're going to be foregoing our top action a lot, but we're not always going to be. And attacking at, 4 damage, 2+2, and disarming at range 4 and getting an experience, sign me up. It is so powerful. And your Bear, like I said before, he's a real hothead. He's always out there getting himself into trouble. You're going to need to play this top sometimes to help protect your Bear so that he's not getting, ground up and, you're having to throw away cards to keep him alive. Also, it's got much better initiative than Punch Through. And then the heal 4, range 4 is just, that can also be very, very useful at times. I'm taking Ancient Ward all of the time, even though, I think we need a way to get through shields, but we can do that later on, and I'll talk about that, once that comes up. But Ancient Ward is just too good to pass up. At level 5, we have Rampage and we have Stone Sigil. The top of Rampage is just not powerful enough for a loss. Essentially it's attack 6, move 6. And while that has some utility, and in maybe rare situations it can be useful, it's not that great. It does combo with the bottom of Punch Through pretty well to, juice it up and do some more damage, but it's still not good enough for a loss in my opinion. Initiative, not that great. The bottom is really handy though and works well in a Concentrated Rage build so that we can get that extra bottom attack. And then we can also move the Bear around to, maybe protect it from some damage or get it into a better position to kill the right monster. And then Stone Sigil, the Monolith is really good. I don't think you can take it when you're playing a Concentrated Rage build, but if you've decided to go for more of a crowd control build or you're trying to focus on summons, and both those are relatively viable, although not as good as the Concentrated Rage build, but this Monolith can do some serious work. Like, you can put it on a side of a room and hold back a ton of monsters so that you're essentially stunning them. Like, would you say like a card that says like, hey, stun 3 monsters for 3 turns in a row is good? It's not quite as good as a stun because, if somebody curses the Monolith or whatever, you get curses put into your deck. But still, it can be really, really good. And it has super late initiative, so if you want to go last, this card's amazing. The command move 5, like I said, I don't think the Bear really needs it, so I'm not, excited about that. I think I'm taking Rampage most of the time. In Concentrated Rage build all the time for the bottom, but I love the Monolith as well. At level 6, we have Primal Blessing and we have Blood Hunger. The top of Primal Blessing is okay. I mean, multi-target heal, good for getting rid of poison and wound and, healing up a bunch of allies. Initiative at 28 is okay. Bottom is actually situationally quite useful, make sure to protect your bear when he's getting himself into trouble. And then we've got Blood Hunger. The top of this, it's not that great, but it does have its uses. So let me just compare with the bottom. So on the bottom, you get to attack 3 with the bear, and with concentrated rage out, this is attack 6, heal 3 for a non-loss, which is amazing, right? So use this card 4 times with the bottom. You're attacking for 24 and you're healing 12, whereas this top loss, you're healing for 10. So most of the time, you're going to be playing this for the bottom because it's so good. And in the long run, it'll heal more. However, if you're near the end of a scenario and your bear's getting pretty low, this top can heal you up much faster than the bottom. So it's like burst heal essentially. So I have used it occasionally for that. So just keep that in mind when you're going into the last room. You may want to play it for that. But I'm taking this card. I'm taking Blood Hunger for the bottom so that we have another bottom command attack. And it's awesome. At level 7, we have Storm Sigil and we have Tyrannical Force. Storm Sigil, the top, the totem, it's not very good. Pushing is kind of going to be a pain for you. It's not that tough. It doesn't do very much damage. You can't move. Not worth it at all, in my opinion. Nice late initiative, though. And the bottom command attack at 4 with concentrated rage and you foregoing your top action. That's attack 7 for one bottom action. It's pretty good. Tyrannical Force, the top, also decently solid. I mean, it's, got good range, damage, and stun. So in the right builds, quite useful. Initiative, not that great. And then the bottom, grant your allies a move -1. It's okay. I mean, you can find some use for it. And just remember, you can't move your monolith or your totem or anything like that because they don't have a move stat. So to move something that doesn't have a move stat, it would have to say like move a summoned ally 3, not move minus or +1 or something along those lines. So just remember that. You can't actually move your totem, your monolith, any of that stuff. You would need another class to do that. I'm taking Stone Sigil all the time if I'm using Concentrated Rage, just for that bottom powerful attack. At level 8, we have Lash Out and we have Natural Remedy. Top of Lash Out is pretty powerful. If you can hit 3 monsters with this, it's better than foregoing your top action for a bottom attack, unless the monsters have shield and you need stronger attacks to punch through them. But on unshielded enemies, if you can hit 3 monsters, it's always going to be better than foregoing your top action. So just remember that. Good initiative at 18. Move 3, push 2, affect all adjacent enemies. This can be useful. I mean, you can push, monsters if they're, close and they're a melee monster and they've only got an attack this round and they're not going to move, you can push them out of attack range, stuff like that. And then we've got Natural Remedy, which is just a good, strong, solid utility heal. Definitely going to be useful. The initiative at 25 is pretty decent. And then it gives us a move 4 and we can strengthen. This is going to be necessary sometimes. It depends on exactly what cards you take. But, I take this for the move a decent amount. You can take either of these. This is a pick'em. Or you can go back to level 4 and you can get punched through. I think if you take any of those 3 cards, you're going to be in good shape. And it depends on, what party composition you're in. Whether you need more attack or whether you think you're going to need to heal. Whether you need to move, etc. At level 9, we have Disappointment. Oh, man. Level 9 cards are fairly disappointing. I feel like they're a bit of a letdown. But anyways, let's start. So we've got Tribal Sigil and we've got Jaws of Death. Tribal Sigil, the top can be decently powerful if you're rocking party with a couple of, long range AoE damage dealers and they stand right by it and they dish out some big multi-target AoEs because the +2 is going to, apply to every attack. Or if you've got somebody that can move the totem or the banner, if somebody can move the banner, then it becomes more useful. But still for level 9, not that great. The initiative is nice and late. The bottom, I guess if you're using a summon build, but it's just not, no. It's not that good. Jaws of Death, the top, it's okay. Certain monsters it can be useful for, but I mean, this should be 8 or 9 for a level 9 card. So I think it's below the curve for the top. The initiative sucks on it. The bottom can output pretty decent damage if you forego your top action and you're using Concentrated Rage. But even then, it's only, 10 damage in optimal situations with a move and a push. So decent utility. It would be just enough probably for a level 9 card. So I'm taking Jaws of Death every time for the bottom. But still, level 9, come on. All right, let's talk enhancements. And there's not a lot of great enhancements for the Beast Tyrant. I mean, I think you should be focusing more on items, but the first one I'd do is I'd add +1 damage to Disappearing Wounds. That's just going to help push your damage up, and it's a pretty cheap enhancement, so, shouldn't be too hard to pull off. And then we've got Soaring Ally. Add +1 move to the Falcon so he can die quicker. I'm sorry. Don't do that. I'm just, I don't know why. Soaring Ally, it actually just annoys me a little bit. So bad. Anyways, and then Ancient Ward, add a target. Disarming 3, better than 2. Okay, for perks, get rid of the -1s. They ruin lives. They just do. Always get rid of them. So replace the 2 -1s. Then you're going to get rid of the -1s with all the +1s. And then you should have no -1s. Then you're going to have no negative scenario effects. Then you're going to replace the +0 with the +2. And then it's a bit of dealer's choice. In some party compositions, if you're like, the main tank, let's say, your bear's the main tank, then you're going to want to take some of the rolling heals because they can come up a decent amount because your bear's attacking quite a bit. And if you can get some advantaged attacks in there, you can actually get quite a bit of healing from these. If not, you can just take whatever else makes sense for you. Okay, let's talk items. There won't be any spoilers in here, so you don't have to worry. First, you're going to want to get a pair of boots that add to your move. If you can get a 7 or 8 move, once per rest cycle, that's going to be enough to keep you where you need to be so that you're not spending, too many turns moving, and you can spend your actions using bottom command attacks with Concentrated Rage. Man, this video's been a tough one. And then you always want to have a minor stam so that you can reuse your bottom attack command actions. And then, you want to try and get your solo item. I'm not going to spoil it, but the solo item for the Beast Tyrant, yeah, it's pretty darn good. And then you're going to want to get some summon items too. Summon items are going to be quite useful for you because, you're going to be able to protect them with the bear and yourself. And I think they're going to be pretty useful. So hopefully you liked the video. Hopefully that helps you play the Beast Tyrant. And thank you so much for watching.